What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. 2017 was a great year for music. I felt like we got albums from like all the greats, from the Drakes to the JayZs to newcomers. And this all around, it was a good year for music. It never felt like there was a shortage of it. We didn't go weeks saying, damn, there's been nothing good dropping. At least I didn't. I felt like there was a lot of releases that were worth talking about and revisiting as the year winds down, and that's what I did. I wanted to do my top 10 favorite projects of the year. At one point I was considering like dividing it up kind of like albums and then EPs, because I felt like 2017 was a great year for EPs. But I'm going to just bundle it all together, and these are my top 10 favorite projects. Now, before we get into it, just a couple things of value to note. I don't like to rank projects. I'm not big on like the numbers. I don't want somebody to watch this video and be like, what? How is he gonna put this at number 1 and over this? No, these are just my top 10, but they're in no order. Because I don't want you to focus on the number. I want you to focus on the content itself. Now, these are the releases that really resonated with me. The ones that I kept coming back to. The ones that I felt had a lot of replay value. And ultimately just provided me with a lot of entertainment. So let's dive into my top 10. Starting things off with Vic Mensa's The Autobiography. Rappers in this day and age will put out several projects, mixtapes, EPs, retail mixtapes, and they will not call anything their debut album. So by the time that they actually do put out a debut album, they already have a discography under their belt. Make no mistake that Vic Mensa has released music in the past, but the Autobiography really feels like a debut, because Vic has evolved so much as an artist over the years that the stuff that you get on the Autobiography is nothing like the old Vic Mensa. This is, as the title says, his trials and tribulations, his views on the world. He's talking about, Black Lives Matter. He's talking about police brutality. He's talking about things that have happened in his life, in his environment, around him. And I feel like this album had some of the most replay value of any album in a long time, let alone a debut album. I would say that out of all the debut albums in 2017, Vic Mensa's The Autobiography was the best of the best. My next pick was Big KRIT's Forever Is a Mighty Long Time. Who can pull off a double album in this microwave era? Who has the patience to even listen to a double album in this era? The answers to those two questions are Big KRIT and me. I feel like Forever Is a Mighty Long Time is going to be one of those all-time great double disc albums. I have listened to it so many times since it came out in October, and every time that I listen, there's really nothing that I skip. I even listen to the skits. It's a classic. With this album, you have two albums that are comprised of 11 tracks each. One is the Big KRIT side, the other is Justin Scott, which is a lot more personal. This is KRIT talking about life, about his frustrations, about his struggle, and the other side, the Big KRIT side, is where we mostly know him from. This is the type of music that you get on his mixtapes, the ones that really knock hard. A record like My Sub Part 4, Subbenstein, is one of the nicest instrumentals I've heard this year. It is crazy. Just the first half. The second half, not bad, but the first half is really where that song in particular shined. I also have to give props to the guest features because they all really fit. It doesn't feel like any of them are out of place, and I also have to give props even more just because I feel like KRIT was able to pick the right ones for each side. My next album is G Perico's All Blue. The term underrated is thrown around a whole lot, but I really do feel like it fits for G Perico. He worked hard in 2017. He gave us 3 projects, 2 albums, and 1 EP. And he didn't need to do that. All he needed to do is give us All Blue because that was incredible. And not to say that the other 2 projects aren't great as well, but when it comes down to it, it's like, I look at it like he didn't need to give us these other albums just because of the time period that they came. It was all within the span of like 6, 7, 8 months. Within a year. Like, that's a lot of music to give someone in such a short time. Especially if an album like All Blue is quality work enough that you can enjoy it. And that's what I've been doing. I've been listening to that on and off throughout the year. I feel like it ranks just slightly higher than the other 2. At 13 songs, All Blue really shows us someone who has worked hard to really craft his own lane, his own sound. It's basically G Perico. He's a street rapper with a charismatic personality over some really hard West Coast sounding beats. That's easily how you would describe G Perico and All Blue. JayZ's 444 definitely had to get a slot on my list. JayZ is still finding ways to sound as fresh as he's ever felt or ever sounded at this stage in his career, over 20 years in the game. And he still manages to come up with new stuff that fans aren't expecting. This is the most personal, all-around album from JayZ. Even so, it's less of JayZ and more Sean Carter. It's like JayZ is taking a backseat and he strips the layers away and really gives us his take on like things in his life, being personal about his mom, about cheating on Beyonce, and other things as well. But I also feel like this is an album that JayZ fans themselves can enjoy because it allows them to continue to dissect his lines. Catching all the double entendres, hearing all the slick lines from JayZ where you're like, damn, I didn't know he was in tune with the internet like that. Like, he says something about skipping leg day and still running the world, and that was kind of a joke on Twitter where people were clowning his legs because they were all real skinny. It was like a vacation photo. So it shows that JayZ is, you know, someone who is still continuing to innovate and still continuing to take his craft very seriously. And I will argue that the beat for the title track, 444, is one of the hardest beats of the year. I love that sample so much. No ID was really in the creative zone when he did that, and like everything on the album, to be honest. This next pick is a no surprise one. Kendrick Lamar's Damn. I've used this analogy in the past, but Kendrick's albums are like my favorite movies. I don't listen to them every single day, or I don't watch my favorite movies every single day, but I enjoy them every time that I do. I think the reason why I use this analogy a lot is because Kendrick's music is very heavy. There's a lot of content on there and a lot of heavy concepts that usually aren't songs that you just throw on like whenever. It's kind of like you got to be in the mood for this type of music. I think that's more true for To Pimp a Butterfly than Damn. Damn is a lot less heavy than that, in a sense where you can throw on records like Loyalty and Humble and not feel like you're missing out on the story, not feel like it's attached to something. These are records that you can throw on and have fun to. There's also a lot of brilliance in the story that he told on this album. Whether you listen to it the way that it's put out or if you reverse the track listing, there's two different meanings, and I love that about his music. It shows you how much detail he put into this album. Whether or not it's Kendrick's best album is not something that I'm here to debate, but I do really appreciate that after, so many years in the game, he's continued to get better and better and more creative. Here's my one pick that is considered pop music. Ed Sheeran's Divide. I'm sorry that I slept on Ed Sheeran for so long. I have heard the name, I've heard him on stuff, but this is the year where I actually listened to a full album from him simply because I had the time and I wanted to see what the big fuss was about. And surprisingly, it didn't leave rotation since. Perfect is a record that is so beautiful, I would probably have to put it in my wedding one day. Supermarket Flowers, man, that record is sad. It gets you really emotional every time that you listen to it. And then there's a record like Nancy Mulligan, where you just want to like dance and groove to. It's a fun record. Divide is great simply because Ed Sheeran is able to tap into a lot of different feelings and make it catchy at the same time. Like, that is a winning combination because it's going to be all over the charts as well as stuck in people's minds, and they're going to remember it for years to come. I know I will. Keeping in line with great singers, Sampha's Process is another one of my picks for 2017. I was surprised by this. Before 2017, Sampha was just someone who worked with Drake and the outcome was alright. When I actually got to listen to his own solo material, I found that he's got one of the most unique sounds. His voice is amazing, and the way that he writes is also very enticing to his entire package. I'm listening to like 100 Degrees Celsius, which was the first track on the album, and I'm thinking, damn, I want more of both sides. Halfway through, the song changes into a different part, and it's rare that I'm like, okay, I want more of that and I want more of that. Like, I love the song that much. Timmy's Prayer was another one that really caught me at a moment when I needed it. February, I was still very depressed over a breakup that happened, and he had the line, "If heaven's a prison, then I'm your prisoner." Now, it's not supposed to help you get over depression, but it was one that resonated with me when I heard that line. Here's a contender for most slept on album of 2017. No Malice, Let the Dead Bury the Dead. With this album, his sophomore solo project, No Malice really found his voice. That voice is in teaching, in educating, in trying to be someone who speaks up for our culture and our generation, and against the people that want to take us down in a sense. That's what you get out of No Malice. I think he kind of stumbled to find his footing a little bit with his first project, Hear Ye Him, but this one is really superior. I like that he tackled social commentary head on. I also appreciate that he's not necessarily like ditching drugs in his entire music, but he shifted the focus. He's not talking about dealing anymore. He's talking about how people are abusing drugs and, kind of looking back, reflecting on his own life. Records like So Woke, Skycrack, Jesus Christ, Fake News. I would put all of those records on par with some of the most creative stuff that he's done since his days within the Clips. My next pick is Saunders Into EP. Saunders really stepped out of a time capsule and started creating music that sounded like it would fit well in the 90s. I love that it was able to stand out that much. And I don't say that in a bad way, like, oh, they're making 90s music. No, I say that in the good sense. Because in this day and age, you don't hear too many artists that are new that have that particular sound. Something about the 90s was that a lot of the music is timeless. You can pick up a Jodeci album or pick up a Joe CD in 2017 and you're not going to be like, damn, this sounds outdated. This does not sound like something that could come out today, or there's all these references. No, that was timeless music. And I think Sonder is going in that direction. Brent Faiyaz was able to really showcase his range as an artist in this year. He showcased his creativity as well as someone who is a part of Sonder, the lead singer, with the other two being producers, and then with his own solo work on Sonderson. I think he has the right idea in not making Sonder and his own solo material sound the same. Sonder has like a winter vibe to it. It was released in January. So it was released around the time where, you know, it was still snowing, it was still very cold, and it has that feel to it. Not saying that you can't listen to it when it's 80, 90 degrees out, but I think it works best in a darker, colder setting. My last pick is Dru Hill's Christmas in Baltimore. I think this might be a first. Somebody get the Guinness Book of World Records and find out if anybody has ever put a Christmas album in their top 10 albums for any given year. I don't think it's ever happened. This was the first Dru Hill project in 7 long years. We got a Cisco album a couple years ago and it was awful. I hate it. I don't even want to be reminded that it existed. I feel like he redeemed himself by jumping back in the mix with Dru Hill and creating this Christmas-themed project. It's like they haven't missed a beat. They really sound great. I'm hoping that this leads to an album in 2018 because, wow, this is one of those picks where you're just like blindsided. I listened to this because I wanted to hear what Dru Hill sounded like in 2017. I was still disappointed from Cisco's album, but I was like, okay, maybe this will sound better. And it did. It sounded great. It's Christmas music, but it's also music that I feel can be played in any season. My favorite song on there is called Fireplace, and that one is definitely going to be a timeless song. I've listened to that so many times, I can already tell that I'm going to be playing it for many years to come. So those are my top 10 favorite projects of 2017. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I know this is a long video. I really wrote this out and thought, oh, it'll be done in 10 minutes. I'll get right through it, boom, 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 1 paragraph each. But I also kind of improvised doing a bunch of other things. Anyways, I want to hear what your favorite projects of 2017 were. Talk to me in the comment section below. Let me know, show me your top 10, top 5, or even if you just want to share one. And if you want to like break it down, explain, I'm all for reading it. Afterwards, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter at SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.